Ladies and gentlemen, this is what makes Mamdani's situation so entertaining to watch, because we're getting to see him actually have to govern in real time, and it's a completely different ball game. We already saw the lack of judgment when he decided to go after the Citadel CEO, Ken Griffin. And now on top of that, we're hearing from Mamdani that New York City is facing a $5.4 billion budget gap, ladies and gentlemen. And so now what? All those big promises, all those government programs, all of that free everything talk, suddenly it starts getting delayed because you got reality showing up. And so we got a lot to break down and get into with this one. Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. That's the best way to let me know. Subscribe to stay locked in with the future videos. And let's start with this.
New York City faces a budget crisis of a historic magnitude. We inherited a deficit larger than any since the Great Recession. Years of mismanagement and chronic underbudgeting, alongside a structural imbalance between what New York City sends to the state and what we receive in return, have taken a toll. We cannot close this deficit with savings alone. We need new revenue, and we need a structural reset in our relationship with the state. That is the only way to meet our legal obligation to pass a balanced budget, and to do so without imposing a financial burden onto the backs of working people. I'm glad to partner with Speaker Menon as we call upon Albany and deliver a balanced budget.
And let me add this, because this is where Mamdani's campaign starts colliding with basic math. He was promising, free buses, free childcare, rent freezes, even city-run grocery stores. We'll get into that debacle. Basically a wish list of government programs that are going to cost New York City billions of dollars. Billions. That they don't even have. And so naturally, what do you think would come next? And the crazy thing is, the logic he's using to defend his position is New York City is putting way more into the state of New York. They bring in more, so they deserve to take more. Obviously hilarious, considering those who are the most financially successful, he wants to squeeze them for as much as he can. So that's, hypocrisy at its finest. But, you come to expect that from Democrats nowadays.
Together, we are extending the executive budget deadline from this coming Friday until May 12th, because a crisis of this scale cannot be solved without state action. I want to be clear. We are not simply asking others to act. New York City is doing our part. We are committed to governing with the fiscal responsibility this moment demands. Speaker Menon and I have already identified meaningful savings, and we will continue that work carefully, deliberately, and without cutting the services that New Yorkers rely on. But we cannot do it alone. That is why we are standing together this morning, to underscore what is at stake and to call on Albany to deliver additional revenue.
Yeah, and so we already know about the tax on second homes that Mamdani wants, but there are also more taxes that Mamdani's calling on from the state to help fund his agenda. And so let's check this out. And so this is what Mamdani's top priorities are. This is what he's asking for. An increase in New York City's personal income tax rate for filers earning $1 million from 3.88% to 5.88%. He's also looking for an increase in New York City's corporate tax rate. We heard about this one, from 9% to 10.8% for financial firms, and from 8.85% to 10.62% for non-financial firms. He's looking for an increase in New York City's unincorporated business tax rate from 4% to 4.4% for businesses. And he wants to reduce New York City's pass-through entity tax credit from 100% to 75%. And so now let's hear what Kathy Hochul, New York's governor, had to say. Take a listen.
New York Governor Kathy Hochul claims that she is done raising taxes, but a group of unions, left-wing organizations, and Mamdani allies, clearly they didn't get the memo, because they are pushing for even bigger tax-the-rich measures, all to help close that city's massive budget gap. But Hochul says enough is enough, arguing that she's already sending over $1 billion to help bail out the city, and that it's now up to them to get spending under control. Here's what Hochul had to say when asked about helping New York City and raising more taxes.
I'm not going to continue. I'm not going to say now, because I'm not negotiating the budget here, what the final project will look like. But I think that is a very significant step toward helping them get to where they need to get to, and they have work to do too.
Say no other new taxes reasonably on the table at this point. Is this?
Not for me.
Yeah, and so I don't know how much you can believe Kathy Hochul, because when Mamdani was campaigning, she knew what he was all about, right, ladies and gentlemen? She knew where he stood. He didn't hide it. And she embraced him because, well, it was politically convenient for her at the time. He is popular. She knew she was heading into an election year. And so now, is it that she really won't go through with these taxes, or is she just waiting to get through the election cycle? And if she wins, then she'll pass those taxes anyway.
She said, not from me.
Yeah.
She didn't say not in my state.
Yeah, that was careful.
She was really
That was
clever about that.
careful.
And I think she's pandering a little bit, appropriately so, because she needs to right now, but pandering because there's got to be a lot of backlash. No one, I'll say this again every time I come on here, no one's talking about the spending. We just keep talking about taxes and not the reason for the taxes. And I think at some point, regardless of party, people just want to know, where is my money and what is it being spent on? And nobody's asking those hard questions enough.
Exactly. How is it that Democrats think they can keep begging for more taxpayer dollars when they cannot even manage the money they already have? Even when we go back to Mamdani's government-run grocery store that he wants to open in a neighborhood, mind you, that already has a local independent grocery store in the area. We spoke about this before. It's going to cost almost 3 times as much just to open the government grocery store versus if it was in the private sector. Where is the efficiency in that? But let's continue, because there's more when it comes to where the money is being mismanaged. Take a listen.
Well, we know where it is. $80,000 per homeless, right?
Oh,
is
yeah,
what the
that's one
city spends
place.
it on. So they're spending that.
Where
and-
do they live? At
On the street.
For
Living down by these.
$80,000?
Yeah, for all the other mental health and rigmarole and administration things, it ends up being on average $80,000 per homeless to care for them in and
And
through the
when we
system.
broke it down, it was like there were crazy amount of administrative costs for people getting paid to oversee these
Yeah.
programs. You know, and then Mamdani says, well, they're allowed to sleep on the street anyway. We give them that right. But yeah, that's one place the money's going. His new pet projects are another place. He didn't have enough monopoly money to be able to give the free buses that he wanted to, but he is going forward with these loss-leading grocery stores because he wants to be able to check those off and be able to say to his constituents that he did something. I agree with you. Kathy Hochul endorsed him, and he was transparent about all this. So she was on board, at least when it was good for her. But now she's got an election coming. It's not good for her. So she's saying, well, it's not going to come from me, but she'll flip-flop if she gets back into office, you know, as soon as you can flip a coin. So we're still stuck in the same boat. The problem here in New York and in a lot of other blue states is that these officials are elected in. I respect the system. I respect elections. These are the people that are being elected in here. Even if I don't agree with what they're doing, obviously there are people out there who A, do agree, or B, don't know better and have to see the devastation that comes from going bankrupt before they figure it out. But this is the way the cookie is crumbling in this state and this city, and we have to live with it. So we have choices, Taylor. We've talked about, you know, you can sit here, you can pay the taxes, or you can leave. If they squeeze people who are staying here now because they say, well, I have to, or I'm not ready to uproot my life, if they squeeze you too hard, you will figure out a way to uproot your life, even if it means quitting your job and trying to find something else to do in a state that is friendlier to you, if it gets that bad.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Mamdani ran his whole campaign on promises that he couldn't explain how he was going to pay for it. Free this, free that, government programs everywhere. Then he realized there's actually a budget and math. And yeah, so of course he's going to come begging to the state. And now he wants to blame the person who was in there before him. Now he wants to, like I said, pressure the governor. Now he needs somebody else to come up with the money, right? That's what we're watching. But here's the problem. At the same time he's begging for money, he's attacking the billionaires, the evil billionaires and business leaders who help keep New York's economy moving. And so, yeah, all that talk might fire up the progressive base. They love that class warfare talk. Rich people are evil. I said this before. That's an easy sell. Blaming wealthy people for normal, average, everyday people's problem is not a hard sell for the ill-informed. and people who are, let's be honest, suffering because of bad policies and overpriced cities. But the problem is they don't know what he's really doing isn't going to even help them, not in the long run.
I guess when I saw it, I thought, this is the most public doxing of any American citizen I've ever seen. I mean, you went to where the guy lives, part-time, but you went to where the guy lives and called out his address. And now Griffin's going to have a meeting with the governor. And how do you see this, Josh?
No, Bill, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is reckless, it's dangerous, it's ridiculous in this day and age when we've seen so many threats against high-profile people. But there's a larger principle at stake here that Zohran Mamdani is talking about. I think it was Margaret Thatcher who used to say the problem with socialism is that pretty soon you run out of other people's money. He's going to find that that's more of a prophecy than a catchy quote at some point if he goes around insulting the likes of the Ken Griffins of the world, who've had far more investment in the day-to-day betterment of New Yorkers than Zohran Mamdani ever has.
It's just a low, deceptive thing to do, to blame those who are much more successful than you for your problems, while at the same time saying we should use their resources to solve your problems. Because the message is, we're the government. We'll take it from them and we'll make it all better for everybody else. And with that, let's go to Ken Griffin, who finally addressed this matter, and hear what he had to say. Take a listen.
Mayor of New York pointed out that you had bought an apartment in New York and he wanted you to pay a so-called pied-à-terre tax. Even though you have employed thousands of people in New York, you're building a new building in New York, you're contributing a lot of tax money to New York. Did that upset you?
What upset me was the personal attack. Like you were at the White House Correspondents' Dinner on Saturday where they tried to assassinate the president. And not too far from where I live in New York is where they assassinated the CEO of United Healthcare. So I think the willingness of the mayor of New York to make this a policy debate, a personal attack, just demonstrated a profound lack of judgment, just a profound lack of judgment. And I understand that New York has bills to pay. Would you like to run New York for us for a couple of years?
I'm unelectable, Kenny. Nobody would vote for me.
Yes, but like you could actually
be a distraction from running around.
So are you going to, Ken, you're going to go ahead with your building in New York?
Well, you know, I'm meeting with the governor Thursday.
Okay, you'll figure it out.
And we'll talk about our future direction in New York. Here's the real question. Is New York going to put their fiscal house in order and run itself from a position of a strong government that's pro-business? Or are they looking to play... Like, why do the Americans think we can do socialism? Like, we have none of that in our DNA, and we're just going to screw it up.
Now, Ken.
So here's where I'll leave it. It's easy to promise everything. It's easy to say we'll just tax this group and everything will magically work out. Yeah. But when the numbers don't add up, when the money is not there, and when the people you're relying on start to push back, that's when it get real. And that's exactly what you're watching right now, because you cannot build a system where you blame one group for all of the problems while depending on that very same group to fund all your solutions. And so the main question moving forward is simple. Are these policies actually going to deliver results? My opinion is a big no, not at least long-term results. Or are they just going to create more of the same problems just with a different label? That sounds a lot more accurate, in my opinion. But those are my thoughts in the update. Now let me hear from you. Drop your comments down below. I appreciate when you guys chime in. Smash that thumbs up if you do enjoy the content. Subscribe for more. And as always, until next time.